The concept of a target drone is actually a fairly simple one. Essentially, live combat training is important to keep a fighter or anti-aircraft squadron at peak performance, so purpose-built unmanned aircraft are designed to be launched and summarily shot down as realistic moving targets. The first target drones came out in the late 1930s, and the formula for them stayed generally the same throughout the Second World War. However, by the end of World War II in 1945, the world had begun to transfer away from the propeller age and into the jet age, revolutionizing the way that aircraft of the future would be designed. All of a sudden, in the span of 6 years, the materials, aerodynamics, and the propulsion of aircraft had all been changed into nearly unrecognizable forms. The target drone of World War II looked like the scaled-up Balsa RC plane, and what came out was a sleek, swept-wing, jet-powered monstrosity capable of flying from 10 to 60,000 feet at over 1,100 kilometers per hour. And that's not 10,000 feet, that's 10 feet above the water's surface. The Ryan Firebee was developed by Teledyne Ryan and was first delivered to the Department of Defense in 1951. It was rugged enough to not immediately explode upon being hit with the missile, and at the same time was able to pop a parachute and be recovered for another flight. The BQM-34A variant was powered by a Continental J69A jet engine producing 1,700 pounds of thrust, although the aircraft has received many upgrades and re-engines over its incredibly long service life. The Firebee could be launched from a boat, from land, or from an airborne DC-130 control aircraft, and could either fly a pre-programmed route using a microprocessor flight system, or be controlled from 300 miles away using radio. In short, these weren't your old World War II era V-1 unmanned missiles that could be tipped over by a Spitfire mid-flight.
Meanwhile, in Southeast Asia,
it's the 1960s, and that means that the United States is currently involved in the Vietnam War and needs some way to gather intelligence on enemy airfields and military bases. So flying photo reconnaissance missions is extremely dangerous because it exposes jet aircraft to heavy amounts of anti-aircraft fire. This means that an ideal plane for the job would have to be extremely rugged and not be immediately blown to pieces by a missile, fly at extremely low altitudes, and be easily recovered after its mission, posing a minimum risk to the pilots involved. Thus, the Firebee was modified into the Ryan Model 147, flying around 34,000 reconnaissance missions during the Vietnam War, pictured in this historic film.
Provides 60% overlap. At a nominal operating altitude of 1,500 feet, ground resolution of less than 6 inches at nadar is achieved. A basic state of distance travel navigation accuracy when going hands-off during a pre-program.
During this time, the Firebee's advantages as a UAV became increasingly apparent. Unlike most contemporary aircraft, it didn't require things like a runway, or landing gear, or a pilot. As such, missions could be carried out much more easily and with far less human risk involved. A downed lightning bug, as these Model 147s were nicknamed, caused considerably less political fallout and unwanted media attention than other manned aircraft. Chinese reports of downed Model 147s were basically ignored by the US press. This is in stark contrast to the 1962 incident involving Gary Powers, who was shot down over the Soviet Union in a U-2 spy plane and caused an international crisis. Thus, the Firebee and Lightning Bug both played extremely important roles in the realm of aviation history, proving that unmanned aerial vehicles can perform tasks more safely and more easily than their contemporary manned counterparts. That brings us to today, where the Firebee is still being used in both target and military purposes, having been used in 2003 in Iraq to deploy chaff against surface-to-air missiles. Its target drone capabilities have also been placed into other aircraft, turning the planes that used to shoot it down into target drones themselves. In addition, the use of UAVs has blossomed into a variety of fields from military to scientific to civilian. As such, drones in general have evolved into a cornerstone of modern aviation, opening up previously unseen frontiers of aerospace, such as hypersonic research, rapid airframe prototyping, aerial photography, and whatever this is.